Dust Gulch was a place where the dirt tasted like secrets and whispers carried further than a rifle shot. And the biggest secret, the loudest whisper, was Widow Blackwood. 3 husbands she'd buried, each death more peculiar than the last. Accidents, they called them. A runaway horse, a mine shaft collapse, a sudden fever. Bad luck, some said. But in Dust Gulch, folks tended to believe luck had less to do with fate and more to do with planning. Evelyn Blackwood, the widow herself, was a sight to behold. Always dressed in mourning black, her corset cinched tight, emphasizing an hourglass figure that hadn't faded with grief. Her dark eyes held a sadness that drew men in, like moths to a flickering flame. They saw a woman in need of protection, a damsel in distress. They didn't see the glint of steel beneath the silk. Some whispered she was cursed. Others muttered about inheritances and land grabs. But no one dared say it to her face. Not in Dust Gulch. Widow Blackwood had a way of making folks uncomfortable. Her smile never quite reached her eyes, and her voice, soft as it was, could cut like a shard of glass. The townsfolk watched her, wary, as she tended to her rose garden, each thorn a silent testament to her resilience, or perhaps something far more sinister. The air around her always seemed to hum with unspoken questions. Dust Gulch clung to the side of the mountain like a stubborn weed, a collection of sun-baked buildings huddled together for warmth and secrets. The wind howled through the narrow streets, carrying dust devils and half-truths in equal measure. It was a place where the sun beat down mercilessly, but the nights were cold and filled with the rustling of unseen things. The beauty of Dust Gulch was a harsh one. Jagged peaks framed the town, painted in shades of ochre and crimson. Cacti stood like silent sentinels, guarding the secrets buried beneath the sand. Even the wildflowers that dared to bloom were thorny and resilient. But beneath the surface, fear festered. The townsfolk were wary of outsiders, clinging to their own like burrs on a saddle blanket. Every stranger was a potential threat, every newcomer a possible harbinger of misfortune. They watched each other, too, their eyes narrowed with suspicion. In Dust Gulch, everyone had something to hide, and everyone was waiting for someone else to make a mistake. The saloon doors swung open and shut with a mournful creak, a constant reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the ever-present threat of death. Even the laughter seemed strained, tinged with a nervous edge. It was a town built on hope and shattered dreams, where the only certainty was the endless cycle of gossip and suspicion. And Widow Blackwood was at the center of it all, a dark star in their dusty sky. The stagecoach rattled into Dust Gulch, kicking up a cloud of red dust that momentarily obscured the already faded sign proclaiming the town's name. Among the passengers disembarking was a man who looked about as comfortable as a cactus in a tea room. Virgil Flowers, a Pinkerton agent from Chicago, was about to try his hand at blending in. He carried a worn leather valise, overflowing with pamphlets and samples of miracle elixirs and unbreakable combs. His tailored suit, though dusty from the journey, screamed city slicker. But his eyes, sharp and blue, missed nothing. He observed the wary glances, the subtle shifts in posture as he stepped onto the dusty street. "Name's Flowers," he announced with a practiced smile, extending a hand to the grizzled station master. "Virgil Flowers, traveling salesman, at your service." The station master eyed him up and down, unimpressed. "Dust Gulch ain't much for miracle elixirs, mister. Folks here mostly believe in whiskey and hard work." "Then I'll just have to change their minds, won't I?" Virgil replied, his smile unwavering. He knew he stuck out like a sore thumb, but that was part of the plan. People underestimated the unexpected, and Virgil Flowers was very good at being unexpected. He had a feeling Dust Gulch held more than just dust and secrets. It held a mystery, and he intended to unearth it, one sales pitch at a time. Virgil spent his first few days in Dust Gulch playing the part of the eager salesman, peddling his wares and charming the locals with a quick wit and an easy smile. But beneath the surface, he was a predator, observing and analyzing. He'd set up shop in the saloon, the unofficial town square, where gossip flowed as freely as whiskey. He watched Widow Blackwood from a distance. She was a striking figure, even more so up close. He noticed the way she moved, the subtle sway of her hips, the way her eyes scanned the room, assessing everyone. He saw the subtle power she wielded, the respect and fear she commanded. When he engaged the townsfolk in conversation, he always steered it, subtly, toward the widow. The opinions were a mixed bag. Some saw her as a victim of circumstance, a woman cursed with misfortune. Others whispered about her coldness, her calculating nature. Still others spoke of her generosity, her kindness to those in need. "She's a puzzle, that one," the saloon owner confided, wiping down the counter with a rag. "Keeps herself to herself, mostly, but she ain't afraid of nothing. I'll give her that." Virgil knew, then, that solving this mystery wouldn't be easy. The truth, like the gold in the nearby mountains, was buried deep, and he'd have to dig to find it. Virgil pieced together the stories, each one a distorted reflection of the truth. The first husband, Jedediah, was a rancher. Runaway horse, they said, dragged him for a mile. But old man Hemlock swore Jedediah was a skilled rider, never one to lose control. Said the horse was spooked by something. Hemlock mumbled, something unnatural. Then there was Silas, the miner. Shaft collapsed. Everyone agreed. Bad luck. But Martha, the baker, remembered Silas arguing with Widow Blackwood the day before. He was shouting about a claim, she recalled, kneading dough with furious energy. Said she was trying to cheat him. Finally, there was Thomas, the banker. Sudden fever, the doctor claimed. Took him quick. But the undertaker, a man who dealt in secrets, whispered to Virgil. He was healthy as an ox. Found a strange mark on his arm, like a snake bite, but no snake venom. Each story was a puzzle piece, ill-fitting and slightly warped. Virgil realized that the truth was buried beneath layers of gossip, speculation, and deliberate misinformation. The townsfolk remembered what they wanted to remember and forgot what they wanted to forget. He was going to have to rely on more than just their unreliable memories. He needed facts. He needed proof. While the past was shrouded in uncertainty, the present offered a clearer, albeit equally unsettling, path. Virgil decided to focus on Bo, the missing gambler. Bo had arrived in Dusk Gulch like a shooting star, flashing bright and captivating everyone with his charm and easy smile. He'd swept Widow Blackwood off her feet in a whirlwind romance, only to vanish without a trace a few weeks later. He was a charmer, that one, the bartender said, polishing a glass. Spoke smooth as silk and always had a winning hand. But then his face darkened. Too good to be true, if you ask me. Virgil learned that Bo had been seen riding out of town late one night, but no one could say for sure where he was headed. Some claimed he'd run off with the widow's money. Others whispered that she'd grown tired of him and disposed of him like a worn-out deck of cards. The lack of a body was unusual. With the other husbands, there had been accidents, however questionable. Bo's disappearance was clean, almost too clean. It suggested planning, deliberation. It suggested Widow Blackwood had learned from her past mistakes, or perhaps she had an accomplice. Virgil knew he needed to find Bo, dead or alive, to uncover the truth. Virgil started digging into Bo's past, sending a telegram to his contacts in Chicago. The reply came back a few days later, and it was more interesting than he could have hoped. Bo wasn't Bo's real name. He was actually a con artist named Clarence Davies, wanted in several states for swindling wealthy widows. Clarence, or Bo, as he preferred, had a knack for charming women out of their fortunes. But he also had a knack for making enemies. He double-crossed a powerful crime boss in St. Louis, leaving him with a considerable debt and a burning desire for revenge. This changed everything. Widow Blackwood wasn't the only suspect anymore. Perhaps Bo's disappearance wasn't her doing at all. Maybe he'd been caught up with his past, and his enemies had finally caught up with him. The question now was, did Widow Blackwood know who Bo really was? Had she been conned, or was she in on the scheme? Virgil realized he needed to tread carefully. He was dealing with more than just a possible murderess. He was dealing with a web of deceit that stretched far beyond the dusty streets of Dust Gulch, and he was getting closer to the center of it. Virgil found Widow Blackwood tending her roses, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across her face. He approached cautiously, the scent of roses and something else, something metallic and sharp, hanging in the air. "Widow Blackwood," he said, tipping his hat. "A lovely garden you have." She turned, her dark eyes assessing him. "Mr. Flowers, isn't it? Selling your miracle cures and unbreakable combs." "Among other things," Virgil replied, meeting her gaze. "I'm also something of a collector of stories, and Dust Gulch has quite a few interesting ones." "Stories can be deceiving," she said, snipping a dead bloom with a pair of silver shears. "Like roses, they often hide thorns." "Indeed," Virgil agreed. "And sometimes the most charming flowers are the most poisonous." He paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "Tell me, widow, did Beau ever mention any enemies?" A flicker of something crossed her face, too quick to identify. "Beau was a gambler, Mr. Flowers. Gamblers always have enemies." Her voice was soft, but there was a steel edge to it. "And did he ever mention his real name was Clarence Davies?" Virgil pressed, watching her closely. Her eyes narrowed, and a faint smile played on her lips. "You've been busy, Mr. Flowers. Perhaps too busy." There was a moment of charged silence, a silent battle of wills. Virgil felt a strange pull toward her, a dangerous attraction to the woman who might be a killer. He knew he was playing a dangerous game, but he couldn't back down now. The scent of roses and steel was intoxicating. Back in his cramped room above the saloon, Virgil reviewed his notes, connecting the dots. Jedediah, the rancher, owned the most fertile grazing land in the valley, land Widow Blackwood now controlled. Silas, the miner, had discovered a rich vein of silver, a claim she now possessed. Thomas, the banker, held the mortgage on her family's ancestral home, a debt that vanished with his death. A pattern emerged, stark and undeniable. Each husband had possessed something Widow Blackwood needed or desperately wanted. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a carefully orchestrated series of acquisitions, veiled in the guise of tragedy. But what about Beau or Clarence? What did she want from him? Money? Perhaps. But Virgil suspected it was something more. Beau was a con man, a master of deception. Maybe he knew something about Widow Blackwood's past, something she couldn't afford to have revealed. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture was still incomplete. Virgil knew he was close to the truth, but he also knew that Widow Blackwood wouldn't let him get there without a fight. He was playing a game of cat and mouse, and the stakes were higher than he'd ever imagined. He needed to find proof, something concrete that would stand up in court, something that would expose her for what she truly was. Just when Virgil thought he was closing in on Widow Blackwood, a new suspect emerged, muddying the waters. Jebediah Stone, the owner of the Golden Nugget Saloon, had a long-standing feud with Beau. They'd clashed over card games, women, and everything in between. Stone was a gruff, imposing man with a reputation for violence, and it wouldn't be out of character for him to make someone disappear. A few townsfolk started whispering that Stone had been seen arguing with Beau the night he vanished. Someone even claimed to have seen Stone leading Beau out of town at gunpoint. The sheriff, a lazy man named Brody, seemed all too eager to pin the disappearance on Stone, closing the case and avoiding any further investigation of the widow. Virgil, however, remained skeptical. Stone was an obvious suspect, too obvious. It felt like a convenient distraction, a way to shift the focus away from Widow Blackwood. He decided to investigate Stone, but he didn't let go of his suspicions about the widow. He found that Stone did indeed have a motive and a violent temper. But he also found an alibi, a flimsy one, but an alibi nonetheless. Stone claimed he was playing poker all night with a group of miners, who corroborated his story. Virgil knew that alibis could be bought, but something about Stone's story didn't quite ring true. It felt staged, like a play put on for his benefit. He was sure of one thing. Someone was trying to lead him down the wrong path. Virgil found Widow Blackwood at the old Blackwood family estate, a sprawling, Gothic mansion overlooking Dust Gulch. The air was thick with the scent of impending rain, and the wind howled like a banshee. He knew this was it, the final act. "Widow Blackwood," he said, his voice echoing in the vast hallway. "Or should I call you Evelyn?" She turned, her face pale, but her eyes defiant. "Mr. Flowers, to what do I owe the pleasure?" "I know about Jedediah, Silas, and Thomas," Virgil said, his voice unwavering. "I know about the land, the silver, and the mortgage. Each man had something you wanted, and each man conveniently died." "Accidents, Mr. Flowers," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Tragic accidents." "And Beau," Virgil pressed, "or Clarence Davies. Did he also have an accident, Evelyn? Or did he simply know too much?" She hesitated, and in that moment, Virgil knew he had her. "He threatened to expose me," she said, her voice cracking. "He knew about my father, about what he did." "And what was that, Evelyn?" Virgil asked, stepping closer. "What secret was so dangerous it was worth killing for?" "My father wasn't a banker," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "He was a counterfeiter, and he hid the plates somewhere on this property. Beau found out and wanted to sell them. I couldn't let him." The truth hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. The mystery of Dust Gulch was finally solved, but Virgil knew the danger wasn't over yet. Evelyn Blackwood was a cornered animal, and she was far from defeated. The weight of the Blackwood family secret pressed down on Evelyn, a burden she had carried for years. Her father's legacy as a counterfeiter had haunted her, shaping her choices and driving her to desperate measures. Each husband had stumbled upon a piece of the truth, a thread that, if pulled, would unravel the entire tapestry of her life. Jedediah had discovered old ledgers detailing her father's illicit activities, hidden in the walls of the family home. Silas had found a stash of counterfeit bills while prospecting on her land. Thomas, as the banker, had recognized the inconsistencies in her family's finances, suspecting something was amiss. And then there was Beau, or Clarence, the con artist. He had pieced together the puzzle, uncovering the location of the printing plates, the source of her family's wealth, and the key to her downfall. He saw an opportunity to profit, to blackmail her, to ruin her. Evelyn had tried to protect her family's name, to preserve the last vestige of their respectability. But in doing so, she had become a monster, a killer driven by fear and desperation. The secret had consumed her, turning her into the very thing she had tried to avoid. Virgil watched her, his face grim. He understood her motives, but he couldn't condone her actions. The law was the law, and she would have to pay for her crimes. But he also felt a pang of sympathy for the woman who had been trapped by her past, a victim of circumstance and her own choices. As Virgil reached for his gun, a voice boomed from the shadows. "Don't move, Pinkerton!" Jedediah Stone stepped forward, a shotgun leveled at Virgil's chest. "I heard everything," he growled. "About the counterfeiting, about the murders. You think I'll let you take her away?" Evelyn looked shocked. "Jedediah, what are you doing?" "Protecting you, Evelyn," Stone said, his eyes filled with a disturbing intensity. "I've always loved you. I knew about your husbands. I knew they were threats. I took care of them. All of them." Virgil realized with a jolt that Stone hadn't been a red herring at all. He was a silent accomplice, a protector who had been operating in the shadows, ensuring Evelyn's secrets remained buried. The accidents hadn't been Evelyn's doing alone. Stone had orchestrated them, fueled by his twisted love for her. A tense standoff ensued, Virgil caught between Evelyn and Stone. Stone fired a shot, narrowly missing Virgil. He dove for cover, returning fire. The mansion echoed with gunfire, the air thick with smoke and desperation. In the chaos, Evelyn grabbed a hidden derringer from her corset. But instead of shooting Virgil, she aimed it at Stone. "This is my mess, Jedediah," she said, her voice cold and resolute. "I'll handle it." The gunshot echoed through the mansion, and Jedediah Stone crumpled to the floor. The surprising twist revealed the extent of Stone's obsession and Evelyn's ultimate control. Evelyn was taken into custody, the weight of her crimes finally catching up to her. Whether justice was truly served was another matter. Some in Dust Gulch believed she was a victim of circumstance, forced into desperate actions to protect her family's name. Others saw her as a cold-blooded killer who deserved everything she got. Virgil wasn't sure what to believe. He had uncovered the truth, but the truth was rarely simple. He had seen the darkness in Evelyn, but he had also seen the fear and desperation. He had played a part in her downfall, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had also been manipulated, a pawn in a much larger game. He packed his valise, the miracle elixirs and unbreakable combs, gathering dust. He no longer felt like a traveling salesman. He was a Pinkerton agent, a seeker of truth in a world of lies. But the truth he had found in Dust Gulch had left a bitter taste in his mouth. As the stagecoach pulled away, he looked back at the town, its harsh beauty now tainted by the secrets he had uncovered. He knew he would never forget Dust Gulch, or the woman who had haunted its dusty streets. He was leaving, but a part of him would always remain, trapped in the web of deceit and violence he had found there. He was forever changed by what he had seen, a little bit harder, a little bit more cynical. The Wild West had a way of doing that to a man. Years later, the legend of Widow Blackwood still lingered in Dust Gulch, a ghost story whispered around campfires and in the shadowy corners of the saloon. Some claimed she was hanged for her crimes, a fitting end for a killer. Others said she had escaped, disappearing into the vastness of the West, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions. The Blackwood estate stood empty, a silent testament to the darkness that had consumed it. Some claimed it was haunted, that the spirits of her husbands roamed its halls, seeking revenge. Others said the printing plates were still hidden somewhere on the property, waiting to be discovered. But the biggest question remained: did Evelyn Blackwood truly get away with it? Stone had taken the blame for the initial accidents, and Evelyn had acted in self-defense when she shot him. Had she manipulated Stone all along, using his obsession to her advantage? Had she played Virgil and the entire town like a fiddle? The truth, like the dust devils that swirled through Dust Gulch, remained elusive, shifting, and uncertain. Perhaps Evelyn had been a victim, a pawn in a larger game. Or perhaps she had been the mastermind, pulling the strings from behind the scenes, orchestrating every move with cold calculation. No one would ever truly know. And perhaps that was the most chilling part of the story. The mystery of Widow Blackwood remained, a dark stain on the history of Dust Gulch, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous secrets are the ones that remain hidden, and the most charming smiles can conceal the deadliest intentions.